This is the Phillips 7500 series TV. It is a budget TV coming in at around £200 for the 43-inch TV that I have here. But it comes with many of the pro features that people look for in much higher end and much more expensive units. So the question here today is, what corners did Phillips cut to get it to this price point, and is it worth you parting with your hard-earned cash? Well, stick around as we do a full review of the Phillips 7500 TV. Inside of the box, it is all fairly simple. You get a large remote, batteries, power cord, two little feet, and of course the panel itself. Tucked away in the bottom, you also get some instructions and a quick start guide, but you really shouldn't need these as it is fairly self-explanatory. This TV can of course be mounted, but I chose to use the included feet. They were super easy to insert and set up, and then it was just a point of putting in the power cord and we can take a look around the device and some of those inputs. On the back we see two HDMIs, one USB for either power or an extended device of some sort like a hard drive, Ethernet, satellite and cable inputs as well. While on the side we have one USB which again serves the same purpose, one HDMI, as well as the optical input and a 3.5mm headphone jack and a expansion card port for TVs that still require that. I actually recently found out what these ports were actually for and it was quite interesting. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, let me know in the comment section down below and maybe I'll do a separate video on it. The I/O alone is pretty impressive. They are all HDMI 2.0 compatible, not 2.1 unfortunately, and only one of them supports eARC support, but this is still a really good lineup. All of these are 4K ready, and to be honest with you, if you're using more than 3 devices, then you're probably going to require a splitter of some sort, but 3 seems like a really nice amount to have, especially on a TV at this price point. Looking at the remote, it is just awful. It's big, bulky and confusing. There are a ton of buttons here that even I don't know what they do. There's some at the top to get you to Netflix or some of the other more popular streaming services if you needed to get to them quickly. But other than that, the remote just really doesn't appeal to me. I do not like this remote and I highly recommend that you use a separate streaming sticks device to control it. For example, I'm using a Fire Stick TV. Before we power on the device, let's look at the profile of the panel and the panel itself. On the website it mentions this TV is incredibly thin, and for an LED TV I guess that's kind of true, but looking at its side profile it's still thicker than I may have liked. Maybe that's because I'm coming from the OLEDs of LG, which are razor thin. This thing is still a little bit bulky, but I suppose you're not going to be looking at it from the side, so it shouldn't matter too much and should fit into many people's spaces with ease. It comes in around 7cm thick, so just keep that in mind when you're mounting this to a wall or placing it somewhere in your space. Looking at the panel itself, as mentioned, it is an LED panel, and along the front we have very minimal bezels. I'm pretty impressed by this. Both along the sides and the top we see basically nothing. There is this small chin along the bottom which houses the Philips logo and some of that sound system as well. And to be honest with you, this chin is minimal and I really don't mind it because of the sound system that we're getting out of it, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Let's actually power on the TV and get it all set up. This is using Philips Safi software, and to be honest with you, it is absolutely appalling. This is definitely where all of the corners were cut when creating this TV experience. The UI is clunky, slow and confusing. Even I didn't know where half the settings were when I needed them. During my setup process, it actually required me to do it twice, simply because the first time, all of the apps just didn't work. It kept kicking me back out again. But the setup process was fairly simple, I suppose. You connected up to your Wi-Fi or used the Ethernet port, you accepted all the terms and conditions, and if you wanted to, set up your cable or satellite TV. I don't have either, so I just skipped that step and I'm using a Roku style stick instead. After all that setup, you are dumped into the really ugly UI and you're left to fend for yourself. Let's talk a little bit about that UI and just how awful it really is. But before we do that though, if this is the first time that you're seeing my face on your screen, then 1, lucky you, and 2, go down there, hit the subscribe button, smash that bell notification icon so you get notified every time I upload. So the UI itself is just a little bit odd. First of all, along the left hand side here, the first thing that we see is an advert for a better Phillips TV. Why on earth are they advertising better TVs than the one you have just bought? This just seems cheap and sleazy to me, but I can maybe look past it. You've then got all of your inputs, that's fairly self-explanatory, but things start to fall apart when you go into the apps section and the settings menu particularly. The settings menu is so cut up into small sections that it becomes convoluted to walk through. For example, simply changing one of the picture quality settings, you'd expect that to be on the remote, that you could change between cinema, game and vivid mode. But no, you had to go into the settings menu and fiddle about in there, and it just really wasn't intuitive. I really hate this UI, and I wish Philips had just spent a little bit more time refining it before they pushed it out the door. Even for this budget amount of money that you're paying, I still expect a better user experience overall. Moving away from this, let's go ahead and load up some HDR content on YouTube to really push this TV to its limits. It is, of course, a 4K panel, and it does have that HDR10 support alongside Dolby Vision, which is really impressive. It is an LED, so you're not going to get the super black blacks that you expect from an OLED, but its colour range is still very impressive. Viewing angles are fairly good as well. Only when I was really stood off to the sides did I notice any real washout in colour, and it was barely visible anyway. On the default setting that the TV came with, the colours were vibrant and beautiful. The blues and the reds really did pop, and it just looked stunning. I was truly blown away by the visual quality of this TV for under £200. If you don't like the current setting though, you can of course go in and change all of this. You can change the backlight, the contrast, the colour and every single little element of it, which is nice if you can find those settings and if you can be bothered to fight with the UI to be able to do that. I do highly recommend you do it though, because you can get a much better image out of it by just simply playing with the settings a little bit and getting it to your liking. With that HDR10 support as well, the TV is just bright enough to be able to fit in any room. Even in a very brightly lit room like this one, the TV still looked good and vibrant in its colour. Being a smart TV, we of course do get a few apps here, including some of the big hitters like Netflix, Amazon, as well as the BBC, ITV and Channel 4 here in the UK. But there are still a lot of glaring omissions from the apps. For example, there's no Disney Plus here, and there doesn't appear to be any option or even any talk of it coming in the future, which is just ridiculous to me. This is not a smart TV because it doesn't have all of the apps that are required for it to stay smart. If you're going to be using it for this, then I highly recommend getting something like the Fire Stick TV 4K and using that, because that has many more apps that you'll actually use and the user interface is just easier to use. The Alexa and Google support is also pretty nice here. It means that you can control the TV and you can control other devices around your house through your TV. It seemed a little bit gimmicky and it's not something that I'd probably ever use, but you can use it here if you would like to. It's fairly easy to set up. This TV also supports Miracast, which basically means you can take your Android or iPhone and you can push Miracast enabled content directly to the TV. This is slow and does occur some kind of lag between the audio and the visuals, so I really don't recommend using it to watch films. If you're going to be doing that, try and actually watch it natively on the TV or through one of the apps. One thing to note about streaming devices is both of the USB ports on this TV do provide enough power to be able to push these sticks. However, when you turn the TV off, those USB ports also lose power. So whenever you turn the TV back on, you're having to sit there and wait a couple of minutes for the streaming stick to also wake up and kick in. This is not a deal breaker, but it is slightly annoying, and I wish I had the option to be able to turn on keeping the power all of the time through those USB ports. Okay, So let's move on to sound. Once again, I was pleasantly surprised here. This has Dolby Atmos built in, as well as what they call 3D audio, and I thought that was just going to be a gimmick. But watching Love, Death and Robots on Netflix, I really did get this quite incredible soundscape coming from the TV. It really did feel like there was sound coming from the left, the right and behind me as well. It got loud enough to fill my room without feeling tinny or really distorting at all. There was a distinct lack of bass, but there always is with TV speakers. However, the high ends and the mids were really nice and crisp, and this may actually be one of my favourite audio experiences from a TV that I've ever used. The display is only 50Hz, so you're not going to get an awesome gaming experience out of this from the next gen consoles like the Series X, Series S or the PS5. However, for many people 50Hz will probably be enough to enjoy many of the games that you're already playing, but just don't expect absolutely stellar gaming performance from this unit. So overall then, for £200 can I recommend this TV? If you're looking for the best of the best gaming experience, both current and next gen, I would not recommend looking at this. Purely because of that 50Hz limitation on the display, it's not going to be the most responsive gaming experience you've ever had. However, if you are looking to cut the cost slightly and still have an incredible TV to watch TV and films and other content on, I can highly recommend this. That display is just beautiful, the sound is incredible, and to be honest with you, for its price point, this is the best TV I've ever used. Anyway guys, what do you think of this TV? Is it worth the £200 or are you going to save up a little bit more money and buy something a little bigger? Let me know in the comment section down below, and of course, my name's been Robert, this has been Review Clue, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.